Welcome back to my channel. These are scary college stories from Reddit. Part 6. College students move out of their dorm rooms at the end of the year. But sometimes they forget something really important. Like this student who wrote, "I was working at a hotel front desk in my hometown during college break one year, when we got a call from a local college that had just closed for the holidays. The desk clerk at the front desk took the call and said, 'We have a call for you from a local college.' Then she put me on the phone. On the other end was a young woman crying. She said her name was Mary and that she'd left her laptop in her dorm room. She asked if we could send someone to a dorm room to grab it, because she was due to fly home that night. I asked for the room number and told her that we would go right over there and get her laptop and send it down to her. After taking the call, I looked at the clock. It was well after midnight. The college was about 15 minutes away in our front. Desk staff were allowed to drive personal vehicles after dark. It was against company policy. Also, no one wanted to stay late because we were all under 21 and the only people in the hotel. So there we were, the two of us at the front desk, debating what to do. Finally, I decided that this was an emergency and we needed to make sure that she got her laptop. So I grabbed my keys and said that I'd go get it myself. As I pulled into the college campus, it was like something out of a horror movie. There was not a single light on outside or in any of the buildings. The main gate was locked and the road to the dormitory was filled with potholes. I found the dormitory and walked up to the door. I knocked and waited. After a few seconds, I knocked again. Still nothing. I tried the handle and the door creaked open. Of course it was unlocked. I stepped inside and started calling out, "Hello, is anyone here?" There was no answer. I called out a couple more times, and then I heard a noise. It sounded like someone had dropped something. I spun around and saw a pair of feet in front of me. I screamed and backed away until I saw a face. It was a young woman standing in front of me. I asked her if she was Mary, and she said yes. I explained that I was there to pick up her laptop, and she led me to her room. I walked in after her, and she began rummaging through her backpack. She finally found her laptop and thanked me profusely. As I turned to leave, I noticed a large duffel bag in the corner of the room. I asked if she needed anything else, and she said no. So I left. It wasn't until later that I realized that I had stumbled upon a secret midnight tryst between Mary and her secret lover. Do you know a secret? Maybe you should tell the world. Or maybe you shouldn't. This next story is from a user. They wrote, "During my first year in university, I lived in a triple occupancy dorm room. My roommate knew a guy named Nick, who was known to smoke weed. He was always trying to recruit people to help him smoke more weed. One day he must have convinced some people to buy some weed off campus because we came back from class one day to find out that our room was searched by campus police. They tore everything apart. They even ripped apart the bed where I was sleeping. I didn't think anything of it until one of my roommates pointed out that Nick's stash of weed was gone. Someone had stolen his weed. The campus police left a note saying that if anyone had any information about what happened, to let them know. A few days passed and the three of us were having dinner in our room. We were eating microwavable ramen noodles when Nick started talking about how he was going to take revenge on whoever stole his weed. We were all done with our noodles, so we went back to the room to use the computer as Nick was ranting about how he was going to find the person that stole his weed. I looked at the back of the chair where the cord for the lamp was attached to the wall. I couldn't help but notice that there was a small amount of green sticking out from behind the cord cover. I told Nick to come look. When he did, he started freaking out. Sure enough, there was a small amount of weed stuffed behind the cord cover. And if you know how lamps are made, there's really no way for someone to get back there unless they dismantle the lamp. Nick was furious, but there was nothing he could do. So he went to bed. I'm pretty sure that the person that stole his weed also lived in our dorm, because why else would they have risked it all for a few nugs if you know? Last story comes from another user. They wrote, "I was going to a fairly large university, and it was almost entirely commuter students. Most kids either drove themselves or there were very few dorms, and even fewer people who actually lived in them. In fact, there were only 2 buildings with resident students, one for men and one for women. They were located at opposite ends of the campus. The majority of the school was split between classes and commuting students parking in the middle. But There was a small population of students that lived on campus. Not only did I live there, but I also worked there as a resident assistant. On the first night of my job, I was given a list of students I was responsible for. I was told that I was responsible for the safety and well-being of the students on my floor. If anything happened to them, it would be my fault. I was handed a heavy keyring that had the key to every room on my floor and told to keep it on my person at all times. I was also given instructions on what to do in case of an emergency. All of these instructions pertained to helping students, guiding them to safety and making sure everyone was accounted for. Nothing I was told prepared me for what happened next. While doing my nightly rounds, checking in on my residents, I heard what sounded like screams in the girls' bathroom. I stopped and listened. They sounded like screams, but they were rhythmic and almost melodic. I chalked it up to an overdramatic movie and continued my rounds. A few minutes later, I was passing by the bathroom again and the sound started up again. This time, it was louder. I hesitated for a moment, then pressed my ear against the cold tile. Whatever was happening in there was definitely not normal. I ran to the nearest staff member and told them about the situation. They laughed and said it was probably just a bunch of girls being girls and told me to get over it. I knew it was unnormal and I felt responsible, since I was the one whose job it was to make sure everyone was safe. So I kept listening over the next few nights. Every night there were the same sounds: screams, laughter, and chains dragging metal moans. The bathroom was never locked, and I never saw anyone go in or come out of it, except for the usual students. I mentioned it to the staff member again, but they just laughed it off. I still couldn't get the sound out of my head. It was driving me insane. I couldn't sleep at night, always expecting something terrible to happen. No one believed me when I told them about the sounds coming from the bathroom. I ended up quitting my position rather than deal with whatever was going on in that bathroom. To this day, I don't know what was in that bathroom, and despite my warnings, no one else seemed to hear anything. That was True College Horror Stories, Part 6. Were you scared? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more scary stories, click here. Thanks for watching and see you next time.